A 3-year-old boy looked up at an adult man and delivered a clear accusation. "You killed me." The child named the specific murder weapon, identified the exact location of the crime, and described how the fatal blow was delivered. Local records confirmed a murder matching those precise details. The problem was that the crime occurred years before this child was born. This goes beyond a child's imagination. The accuracy of his claims provides an impossible data point that challenges our understanding of how human memory functions. This took place in an isolated village in the Golan Heights. The young boy's family had no connection to the victim. Because the crime was a forgotten cold case, no one in the child's social circle had ever spoken of it. This creates a strict information vacuum. A 3-year-old possessed forensic knowledge he had no physical or social way of obtaining. The mystery shifted from words to biology when doctors examined a prominent birthmark on the child's head. The toddler claimed he died from an axe blow to the head. The birthmark sat directly over the patch of bone he pointed to as the strike zone. Some researchers refer to these anomalies as physical echoes, a theory suggesting that severe trauma can manifest as physical markers in a later life. The presence of the birthmark changed the investigation. Authorities were now treating a toddler's story as a literal forensic map. The child eventually led a group to a neighboring village. He identified his former house and recognized neighbors by roles he couldn't possibly have known. He then identified a specific man as his killer. The name belonged to a local resident who had disappeared years earlier, leaving no body and no evidence of foul play. The accused man denied the claim. In response, the child led the villagers to a hidden location in a nearby field. He told them to dig. Beneath the dirt, they uncovered a human skeleton with a fatal skull wound. Lying next to it was an axe. Confronted with the body and the weapon, the accused man confessed to the murder. A cold case disappearance was solved because a victim returned to identify his killer and locate his own remains. While this story sounds like an isolated anomaly, it is actually part of a much larger body of evidence. This phenomenon has been studied for decades by researchers at the University of Virginia, including Dr. Ian Stevenson and Jim B. Tucker. They documented over 2,500 reports of children recalling past lives from every corner of the globe. A clear pattern emerged within this data. A significant number of cases involved violent deaths that correlated with physical birthmarks on the children. One story is a curiosity. 2,500 meticulously documented cases constitute a massive dataset that demands a scientific answer. Modern science relies on the boundary of the physical brain, which leaves little room for the survival of consciousness after death. The primary skeptical theory involves false memory formation, where cultural influences and leading questions from adults lead a child to construct complex, imaginary memories. That logic explains a child's stories, but it fails to explain how a toddler leads a village to a hidden, buried skeleton and a murder weapon. It is worth noting the Golan Heights case was never processed in a modern Western court, leaving the testimony to exist outside of formal forensic records. We are left to choose between two possibilities. Either memory is a biological construction formed by our immediate surroundings, or it is something we can inherit and discover. To understand this through a clinical lens, we have to test these events against the standard psychological theories often used by researchers at institutions like the University of Virginia. The first hypothesis is false memory formation. This suggests that overeager parents or cultural expectations might accidentally feed a child a narrative until they believe it happened to them. The second is information leakage. It proposes that the child simply overheard fragments of old village gossip about a missing man and internalized those details as his own. But those theories were tested when the boy led the villagers to a specific, unmarked patch of ground and told them to dig. They found a human skeleton with a skull fracture that matched the child's birthmark. Buried nearby was the murder weapon, a rusted axe. Following the discovery of the body and the weapon in a location only the child could identify, the accused man reportedly confessed to the crime.
This outcome creates a significant problem for the information leakage theory. No one in the village knew where the body was hidden, which means the child couldn't have overheard a secret that no living person possessed. There is a caveat to this case. It was never processed through a modern Western court system, which means there are no formal police files or forensic laboratory reports to verify the sequence of events. However, the volume of local testimony and the documentation provided by researchers like Stevenson ensure the case remains a persistent anomaly in the study of human consciousness. The evidence points toward a biological blind spot, the possibility that specific memories or traumas can leave a footprint that persists in ways our current neurological models aren't yet equipped to track. It suggests that the most disturbing mystery isn't what happened to the world before we were born, it's how much of that history we might still carry with us.